If there's one thing I've learned from my years of restaurant experience, it's this. Fresh, local ingredients are extremely important if you want to eat healthy, delicious food. Hi, I'm Sebastiaan Zijp, chef and farmer at the Farmer's Hands Homestead. Welcome to Farm Fresh Table, farm-to-table cooking in Buncombe County. On today's episode, we're going to be taking advantage of some beautiful spring vegetables by making a spinach and bacon quiche, a beautiful green salad with some radishes, and some herb-spiced meatballs. We're going to head over to Flying Cloud Farm to pick up spinach and vegetables, and then to Hickory Nut Gap Farm to pick up local meat and eggs. We're here today on Flying Cloud Farm here in beautiful Fairview, and we're here to pick up some produce and meet with Farmer Annie. So, tell me a little bit about your amazing farm here.
My husband and I have been farming for about 15 years. This is our 15th CSA season. We grow vegetables, berries, and flowers, and we use organic methods. We direct market everything that we sell through our CSA, Community Supported Agriculture boxes, through several local tailgate markets. And then we have a self-serve honor system farm stand that's open on our farm every day. People can just stop by there and pick up produce, flowers, everything you offer at the farm stand? Everything we offer is at the farm stand, and it's open all the time, and you can pay with cash, check, or PayPal.
That makes it easy for people, right? That's great, that's great.
And in the summer, we grow a lot of cut flowers, and we let people come and pick their own flowers. Oh, great. So like a you pick flower thing. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I understand that you're tied into the bigger history here of the Fairview farming community. Yeah. Well, my great-grandparents moved here 100 years ago. Wow. And they bought Hickory Nut Gap Farm, and they ran apple orchards and dairies, and growing up, we grew up with an agricultural lifestyle. My father's English, my mom is from Fairview. My dad was the local Fairview doctor. Oh, great. So my husband and I, we started a sort of another branch of the family farm. So what's fresh in the garden now? Right now we're harvesting early spring greens, like spinach and lettuce mix, baby mustards, things like that. We're also starting to get some early root crops, like radishes and turnips. We have some fresh culinary herbs and some early cut flowers. Great. And we're probably a week or two away from our strawberry crop. Oh, very exciting. Very exciting. We grow about an acre of strawberries. Oh, boy. Can you show us where your spinach is? And maybe we can harvest a little? Let's go get some. All right. These are just a round red radish. Classic. Classic, easy, good, tasty, not too. Are they really spicy, or are they not too spicy? I think because of the wet weather and. Right, it hasn't been too hot yet. So there you go. You want some radishes? Radishes sound great. Take these. Those are beautiful. I'm gonna make a nice salad with those for sure. This is a Savoy spinach, which is good for the overwintering. The smooth leaf spinach is growing more in the summer. Is it just not quite as cold hardy? Is that why you grow this? Cold hardy, yes. And it just gets so sweet and delicious when it gets a couple frosts on it. Yeah. Beautiful. It's just wonderful. We're getting into early spring spinach. It'd be great in that quiche. Yeah, absolutely. Yummy. Well, thanks so much for showing us around your beautiful farm here. You're welcome. Absolutely. Thanks for coming out. You're welcome. If people were looking for some more information about your farm and what you offer, is there a place they can go find that? We do have a website. It's flyingcloudfarm.net, and you can also find us on Facebook or Instagram for a lot of fun photographs. Great. Thank you. All right, thank you. Just down the road from Flying Cloud Farm is Hickory Nut Gap Farm, and we're here at their farm store. We're going to pick up some bacon and eggs for our spinach quiche, and we're also going to pick up some ground beef for our ground beef meatballs. Good looking stuff. So just need a ½ pound of your house smoked bacon, please. We've got a lot of delicious looking local cheeses here. What would go well in a quiche? How about a piece of cheddar? We've got our meat, eggs, and cheese, and now we're gonna head back to the kitchen.
So we're back here in the kitchen at the Farmer's Hen's homestead, and we have lots of wonderful, beautiful vegetables here that we picked up from Flying Cloud Farm. So we got our beautiful spinach here, a whole array of lovely fresh herbs that we'll be using in our salad dressing, as well as for our meatballs. We got some green onions from them. And then we picked up eggs from Hickory Nut Gap Farm. We picked up some local cheddar, which we'll be using in our quiche, and then also some of Hickory Nut Gap's house smoked bacon. So this is the bacon that they make at Hickory Nut Gap Farm from their pigs, and it's super, super delicious. So we'll be making our quiche. It's as simple as you can get with a quiche. We have our oven preheated to 375. The first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna slice up this bacon and we're gonna render it down. All we're doing here is cutting what's known as lardons. So they're little strips of bacon, not too small, otherwise you're gonna end up potentially getting them too crispy, and you want that nice texture of the bacon. We're gonna start with just a little bit of olive oil in our pan here, just to get that bacon going. We don't need it much, maybe a tablespoon or so. Make that get slightly warm before we add our bacon. Add our bacon to the pan. Spread it around. You don't want to overfill your pan, otherwise you might end up getting a little bit too much moisture in there, and then you won't get crispy bacon. So we're gonna let that render. While we're waiting for that to render, I'm gonna take our really nice local cheddar, and I'm just gonna grate it just a little bit, just so it'll mix in with the cheese, with the eggs, and the bacon and the spinach. I like this cheddar because it's nice and salty. It's got a lot of good flavor, but you can do feta cheese if you like. You can use goat cheese, which will give it a little bit more of a creamier texture to your quiche. You can omit cheese altogether if you want to. You can use Parmesan cheese, whatever you really like. So we've got, about a cup or so of cheese here ready to go. So the base for this quiche is eggs and milk, and we're doing the ratio of 1 cup of milk to 4 eggs. So all we're gonna do for that is we're gonna pour our cup of milk into our bowl here, and then we're gonna crack 4 of these wonderful local fresh eggs from Hickory Nut Gap. These are just super delicious. They pasture raise all their chickens there, which means they get to run around in big fields with lots of grass and eat bugs all day, and all those yummy, delicious, nutritious things the chickens eat will get transferred into their eggs. Just gonna give that all a gentle whisk, just to break those eggs up and mix that all together. We're gonna season our base super simply with just some salt and pepper. Again, the bacon is gonna be salty, the cheese is gonna be salty, so you really don't need to add a lot of salt to this. But I do like to add quite a bit of black pepper to it. Stir that in. And I'm gonna add our cheese to this mix as well at this point, just to get that mixed in. All right, our bacon is looking really, really nice. So I'm gonna pour off some of this bacon fat. We don't need all of that fat in there. You can keep this and use it for, frying your eggs tomorrow morning or whatever you like. Do not discard it. It's delicious, tasty bacon fat. So we've got just a little bit of that bacon fat in there and our crispy bacon. To this now I'm gonna add our spinach. The spinach was just washed really well. Spinach is usually somewhat dirty, so I wash this about 3 times just to make sure I get any grit off of there. We've got about 6 cups or so of fresh spinach. The spinach is so good right now. Spinach is a cooler weather vegetable. So spring and fall are the times you find spinach a lot more often at farmers markets than you would, say, in the high summer. So it's nice to get this into you at this time of year. It's also a vegetable that freezes really well. So if you love spinach and you want to get it locally and fresh, I would suggest stockpiling and getting a whole bunch at your local farmer's market now, blanching it real quickly in some boiling water, and then you can put it in Ziploc bags and freeze it. And then you can make this anytime you want. So we're gonna render this down to basically wilt this spinach down till it's almost all cooked, but you don't need to cook it too much further than where I'm at right now. We've got a simple pie crust here. You can make your own or you can get a pre-bought pie crust. We're gonna transfer our spinach and bacon mixture, spread it out so it's nice and even. And then we're gonna take our egg mixture. I'm gonna give it a quick stir just to make sure that cheese is distributed really well in there. And we're just gonna gently pour it over our spinach and bacon mixture. Make sure it's evenly distributed. And we've got our oven at 375. And we're gonna put this in the center of the oven. And this is gonna cook for 30 to 35 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna make our fresh green salad. We'll be making a really delicious herbed vinaigrette to go on our beautiful local spring greens here. We've got quite a few beautiful different kinds of lettuces mixed in here. So this dressing, you can use any kind of herbs you like. We're gonna be using some green onions. We've got a whole array of beautiful herbs here. We've got some scallions, we've got some sage, thyme, mint, oregano, and a little bit of summer savory. This dressing is super simple to make. We're gonna take a little bit of all these different herbs. We're gonna chop them up or we're gonna slice them up depending on what the herb is. So we're gonna take just a little bit of this green onion. If you don't wanna do this as a chopped dressing, you could also put it all together in a blender and you would basically make something similar to a green goddess dressing. You would just blend it all up together. I like the textures and the look of all the different herbs in there. And we're just gonna make a little pile of that and chop it. Do this relatively coarse, doesn't have to be super fine. You want all those. You do want to chop it enough so you get a nice even distribution of those herbs in your dressing, but that's as far as we're gonna go with that. All right, so we'll be putting in some salt, say about a teaspoon or so, some black pepper, and again, you can put as much or as little black pepper in there as you want. I'm gonna give it a little bit of squeeze of Dijon mustard, which I just love in a dressing. Just a tiny little bit. It looks like I forgot to grab a very important ingredient, vinegar. Ariel, could you pass me some vinegar, please? Thank you. So I'm using red wine vinegar for this. I love the flavor of it, but you can use any kind of vinegar you like. And the basic ratio for vinaigrettes is 1 part vinegar to 3 parts olive oil. So we've got about, I'd say about a tablespoon or so, a little less of vinegar in there, and then 3 parts olive oil. And that's about that. We'll get our mason jar lid, put it on there, tighten it relatively securely, keep a couple fingers on top, and then all you gotta do to make this vinaigrette. And there we have a nice herb vinaigrette for our salad. One last ingredient we'll be putting in this salad is some of these really nice breakfast radishes or fresh radishes we got from Flying Cloud Farm. I'm going to be slicing them on my mandolin slicer just because I can get them really, really thin on this. Don't have to have one of these, don't have to use one of these. Using a knife is fine. This is just the way I like to do them. If you have one, always be very careful. They're very sharp. They can cut your fingers pretty badly, so try to keep your fingers away. And radishes have these handy little holders on them built right in. These are beautiful like that. So to finish the salad, got our dressing, got our clean lettuce, got our radishes. Give this one a quick shake. We're gonna drizzle a couple tablespoons of that over the lettuce. And I'm gonna mix this by hand. I like to get my hands in there, kind of massage the dressing into the lettuce. And then we're gonna take our beautiful radishes here and just kind of scatter them over the top. And there we have a really lovely, simple, fresh green salad with the herb vinaigrette. Lots of beautiful local produce in there. So there's our quiche. I gave it a little bit of a jiggle 5 minutes ago, and there was just a little bit of a jiggle right here in the center, which is usually the last part to cook. But as you can see with me shaking it, there is no jiggle. I'm gonna give it the little knife test. It's gonna go in and comes out clean. It's wet, but there's no chunks of egg or anything sticking to that knife. So it is done and good to go. Next, we'll be making our herbed meatballs. We'll be making really nice small meatballs filled with lots and lots and lots of fresh herbs from the garden. We got some really nice ground beef from Hickory Nut Gap Farm. We'll be adding, again, an array of herbs. We'll be using more of the savory herbs this time: sage, oregano, savory, and thyme, and some green onions. We'll put a little egg in there to bind it, salt and pepper, just a little olive oil on there, and they'll be going under the broiler. I'm going to be using some green onions here, and for this I'm going to be using the whites and the greens from the green onion. I really like a good onion flavor in these meatballs. I'm going to slice them just like we did earlier. Slice them into little rounds. You can also do something a little simpler with this. Instead of chopping it all by hand, you can get yourself a little food processor, and you can put all the herbs in there and pulse it a few times if you don't want to slice it all by hand. So we've got our scallions in there, our green onions. I'll be using a good amount of oregano, a good amount of sage this time. Grab some of our savory. Again, this is a really nice flavored herb that is delicate but has a very similar flavor to thyme and rosemary. And last, we'll put some fresh thyme in here as well. All right, so we've got a pile of delicious, beautiful, fresh herbs from the garden, as well as some from Flying Cloud Farm. We'll give them a good chop. Add all of those to our ground beef. We're going to simply season this with some salt and some fresh cracked black pepper. And just to bind it all together, we're going to be adding 2 eggs. And we're just going to gently mix this. I'm using my hand, just going to gently mix this all together till it's just incorporated. We don't want to overwork it too much. It can get a little bit too chewy. We're going to make these really light. So we've got a cookie sheet here that I have lined with a Silpat, and this is basically a silicone baking sheet. It's a wonderful thing to have in your kitchen. It is 100% nonstick. Can go in the oven, can go under the broiler, and it's just a really helpful, useful tool. So we'll make small meatballs because they're going to go in the broiler. Just going to take, say that's about a, heaping tablespoon or so of the mixture. Lay them on our tray. They need a little bit of space in between them, but they're not cookies, so they won't expand. So you can put them close together. So we've got our meatballs all rolled out here on our tray, and so this is really, really nice ground beef from Hickory Nut Gap Farm. It's grass-fed beef. They pasture raise them, so they move them from one pasture to the other, so they're always on fresh grass. They got lots and lots of good, nutritious, healthy food in them, which obviously translates to a healthier meat. For us, Hickory Nut Gap's farming practices are also very sustainable and environmentally friendly. So before we put these in the oven, I'm just going to give them a little drizzle of some fresh olive oil on top. We've got our oven set to broil. We have our oven rack set to its highest point, and we're going to just slide these right under the broiler, and we'll set a timer for 10 minutes and check them, most likely turn them at that point. So we have some extra herbs left over. Well, we're going to use mint and the rest of our green onions and scallions here to make a really simple salsa verde. This will be a really nice sauce we can put on top of our meatballs. Simple as it gets, I'm going to chop these green onions and scallions here into big chunks. We'll put them into our blender base. We'll take our mint. I'm using, I'd say about half a cup of this green onions and about a cup or so of mint leaves. You can use other herbs in here if you want. We're just going to keep this really simple and use the onions and the mint. It gives a really nice flavor. We'll be adding a little pinch of salt. I'd say about half a teaspoon. A couple turns of fresh cracked pepper. And for some acid, we'll use juice of half a lemon. We'll also be adding, I'd say, about a 1/4 cup of olive oil here. Put our lid on top, our safety guy on there, and I'm just gonna pulse this first to get it all going. And once it looks like it's chopped, then we have this really nice, very green salsa verde that will go really well with our meatballs. So our meatballs have been in here and they're good to go. So we have our meatballs here and we've got our beautiful fresh salsa verde, which literally translates to green sauce. And we're gonna take that and we're gonna drizzle it right over top of these broiled, herbed meatballs. Everything's out of the oven and we've put together a really nice meal here with all these wonderful ingredients from Flying Cloud Farm and Hickory Nut Gap Farm. We have our herbed meatballs with salsa verde on top, our spinach and bacon quiche, and a simple green salad with an herb vinaigrette on there. I'm gonna have a little taste and see how we did. Thanks for joining us around the table. Oh man, that's good. I'm excited about these meatballs. I think they are going to be really, really tasty. Come on. I have something on my face? Yeah, what happens? It's all those fresh herbs. Oh, those meatballs are super tasty. I really like that we made that salsa verde after all.